Hey, welcome back. So in our last video, we got started writing the bulk of our algorithm inside of this permalone function here. We wrote a nested function to help populate this permutations array, and right now we have three strings inside of it: ABC, BAC, and CBA. Those are the three permutations we have on the second level of our recursive tree in this Geeks for Geeks example. So in this video, we're going to learn how to make recursive calls on each of these three substrings and get all possible permutations for the initial string so that we can push them into our permutations array. So the real question is, how are we going to write an algorithm that knows if we're at the very bottom of this recursive tree? Well, in the last video, we talked about these red letters here and how they increase as we go down the tree. So they go from 0 red letters from 1 to 2. And the red letters correspond with a starting index that we're locking in place. In the last video, our start index was 0, and we swapped A with itself and everything that comes after it. So what we need to do now is recursively call our function, moving our start index up by 1. And we're going to know if we're at the very bottom of our tree if our start index, the red letters, is the length of our string minus 1. So for example, the length of this string, ABC, is 3, and at the bottom of our tree, our start index, or the position we're locking at in place, is 2. So that is going to be the end condition for our recursive function. With all that in mind, I'm going to go back over to FreeCodeCamp, and I'm going to start by, I'm going to go ahead and for now just comment out our while loop right here. And what we want to make a couple of conditionals. The first thing we want to check is if the start index is strictly equal to string.length minus 1. If this is the case, we know we are at the end of our recursive tree, so we can say permutations.push, passing in our string. Directly below, I'm going to make an else statement, and now I'm going to cut all the code we had commented out, Command X, and I'm just going to hit Command V to go ahead and paste that in. Format that so it looks nice. Come back down, get rid of our comment, and there we go. Now inside of our while loop right here is where we're going to make our recursive call. I'm going to go ahead and copy this function name up above, and I'm going to replace permutations.push in our while loop, copy and paste, and what we want to do is pass in our swap string, and we want to start looping the next time this function is called at our start index plus 1. Again, just to help reinforce what is happening, over here in Geeks for Geeks, we are recursively calling our function on one of these strings in the second level of our tree-like structure, moving the pointer up by 1, looping, and next time around we're going to know that we're at the end of our recursive tree because our start index is going to be the length of our string minus 1, and in that case we can just go ahead and push something to our permutations array up above. That should handle our permutations. The second part of this problem is filtering out values that have consecutive repeating characters. So below, I'm going to go ahead and remove this console.log statement, and I'm going to set permutations, copy paste, permutations equal to permutations.filter, and in here passing in a callback function, and in here inside the callback function we have access to each of our permutations, so we can just call this permutation. Perfect. That is permutation with one M. Sorry, I'm all over the place today. And above, there is one more thing we need to do. Right now, we can't redeclare permutations because it's a constant. All we need to do to change that is declare permutations with let instead. And inside of here, our callback function, we want to return a condition. We want to return not pasting in has consecutive repeats, passing in our permutation. Great. Below, there's just one more thing we need to do to get this whole thing to work. We need to return permutations.length. Permutations.length. Run all the tests, and everything passes. Now, just because everything works does not necessarily mean we're finished. In the next video, we're going to be looking back at our code, making some optimizations, refactoring some things. After that, we will recap what we did in this tutorial series, and we will be all finished. If that sounds good, I will see you in the next video. Stay tuned.